Welcome to this episode of the Successful Franchisee's Beautiful View. And today I have with me Roger Foehringer. He's with the Preferred Funding Group. Roger and I have talked a little bit in the past, and he is an excellent resource for brand new franchisees that are getting started in alternative type of funding, different than Benetrends and Fran Fund and those others. So I wanted to have Roger on our show today and talk with you a little bit about what he does and what Preferred Funding Group does. So Roger, welcome and thank you again. I appreciate you being on today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Tell our folks a little bit about what Preferred Funding Group does and how you help new franchisees.
Sure. Well, Preferred Funding Group was started by my son-in-law, actually, about 14 years ago. And he's very successful, and it's worked out great for his family. And I retired about 4 years ago, and he said, "Gee, if you'd like to come in and work with us, you're more than welcome." So I piddled around a little bit here and there, and I'm kind of a working type person. I have a lot of things on my plate, but I like to keep busy as well, So I said, well, sure. So I came in, and it's not too out of the ordinary for me because I was in the insurance industry for many, many years. So I was accustomed to financial situations. This industry was unique. And John, of course, led me, down the path as to how he works and how he's successful with how he funds people. And it's a nice system. It works out really great for a lot of people. It's based on personal credit and personal their existence in their credit field. And it's very simple, and the format is very straightforward. So that's what we do.
What are the criteria for folks that want to work with you?
Well, we need to have a person that has good to great credit. The better the credit scores and history, the more funding that's going to be available for them. We start our programs with credit scores of 680 for our term loans and 700 for our credit card programs. Our term loans, we can obtain up to about $500,000. That's about the maximum that anyone could obtain in the unsecured funding world. We also have a program where we have business credit cards. We can obtain about 150,000 in that format. With our term loans, there is a set rate that is secured by the banks. That's who determines that rate. It's like a mini mortgage. It's 5 or 7 years, no prepayment penalty. It works out quite well. We use all the big banks that you're all well familiar with. And the same goes for the credit card program. We have the same banks that we use and some credit unions as well. The nice thing about the credit card program is that we actually have no interest for the first 12 months. So a lot of times that comes in very handy with a startup business, even though it may not be necessary initially, but there are so many secondary expenses that may not be known. So it's great to come up with, to be able to have that available to a person when all of a sudden, oops, we forgot about X and Z. So here we go. We've got the availability. But it works out quite well all the way around. And as far as how we come to the amounts that the person is eligible for, we ask them for two simple things. We ask them for their last 2 years of personal 1040s. And from that, we look at their adjusted gross income. We need to have a minimum of $50,000 in that regard. Of course, in all these aspects, the more the better, or the higher the scores, the better, and higher the credit system, Higher the credit, the better. Um, but it works out quite well in that regard when they send that along with uh, um, uh, their credit report, their full credit report. Then we determine within about an hour or so what they would be eligible for. Now, at this point, there are no hard inquiries that have taken place. So this is from our experience, and we give the person a range, maybe 50 to 75 for term loans, or 150 to 250 for term loans, and have a discussion with the client. And then they can decide whether they want to move forward at that point, if this is a good fit for them. That's how it's done.
Fantastic. What type of restrictions are there on how someone can use the funds?
There are no restrictions at all, which is huge. Again, because this is a personal loan, there just isn't any, issues with what the funds are used for. They may decide that, the funding is used for a certain item, and when they're through with that certain item, they may have $10,000 left over and say, "Gee, we always needed a new deck on the back of our house." That's okay. That's perfectly fine. That's how liberal the use of the funds are. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Gives people a lot of options.
Oh,
And along
absolutely.
those lines, what if someone just for security purposes wants to have this in their back pocket and they
Mhm.
decide, hey, I don't need to use it. Their franchise ramps up quicker than what they expected and the cash is flowing and they never
Mhm.
have to touch the loan. What type of penalties are involved?
There is no penalty whatsoever on the term loans. So, 6 months down the road or whatever, they can just say, okay, we're just going to pay that off. We've got the funds coming in with our very successful franchise that we've developed, and we no longer need it. So they might want to keep the credit cards at least for that 12-month period, because you never know when something like that might come up.
Absolutely. And do you have any recent success stories you can share?
Well, I did an interesting funding of a person who was a coin merchant, gold and silver. And I have so many unique stories like and it's not necessary that I know the situation, what they need the funding for, but we humans are pretty inquisitive about things, so I always ask, and it's always so interesting. But this fella, he actually needed the monies to buy his product, at in certain amounts, larger amounts that he could purchase. Of course, the less expensive they were for him. So it's very, very interesting, something I had no knowledge of in the past. So things like that are very interesting. And we also did a few um nice new franchises, which were painting companies. And they were very excited, and you could see the enthusiasm. And that's always fun to see and hear, of a person's ideas and their ability to reach out and look into the future. And for a lot of those younger people, and there's some people my age that are doing it for the first time as well, but they're looking into their future. So I always remind them that I'm actually living in my future right now. Where a lot of, what do you mean by that? Well, I was 30 years old at one time, and now I'm, more than double that. So it's kind of interesting how things play out in your life. And so, if you're thinking about doing something different, now's the time. There's no reason, if all the figures and facts lay out, and it seems like a good, situation, there's no time like the present.
Absolutely. And you lead into my next question perfectly. In franchising, there's all kinds of different sectors from home services to brick and mortar retail to, kids enrichment programs. where do you find the most success, or who's coming to you the most, and in what type of sector in franchising?
It's just a wide gamut, just like you mentioned. It's really just about anything you could think of that is being franchised, we can help fund. So there's is not one specific, sector. It's just that wide variety of things that people are interested in, and usually it's something they have a passion for themselves. That's what I see. Other times not. It's something totally new for them, which is maybe a retiree that is just still involved in things, and they want to continue to be involved, and uh, they just believe that it's a good thing to keep themselves active and have a nice passive income as well. So works out quite well in that regard.
Outstanding. Thank you. What haven't I asked you that I should about PFG? And then I have one other follow-up question from your bio that I really am interested in.
Sure. Um, well, possibly as far as where we're located, we're in a little river town about 40 miles west of Chicago. Um, we have a nice little office here that we've got about 30 people that work here at Preferred Funding Group. We do have a few people that work remotely, but I'm by far the oldest. So it's fun to work with a bunch of 30-year-olds because there's a lot of times where I'll say, "What did you just say?" And what does that mean? But it's kind of fun because I'm on the opposite side. So I'll come up with sayings or just brief descriptions, and they're like, "What are you talking about? What does that mean?" So it's pretty cool, and they keep me on my toes, so that's fun. Um, but we're kind of the best of two worlds because the city is just a few minutes away from us, and but then the country is the same. 5 minutes away is nothing but farmland, so we're in a good situation right here. Works out quite well. But yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment as far as our office goes. We had a great group of people, wide diversity, so that's great as well. So.
And I'm really, really curious, what's the favorite antique car that you restored?
Oh boy. Well, I've done a number of them, but right now I've got a 32 Ford five-window coupe that I've had for a number of years now. But I picked up a companion to it up in the north woods of Michigan, on the Upper Peninsula. I found pieces of another 32 Ford five-window coupe, and I brought them home after a period of about 4 years. The fellow that owned the fence row that all this junk was laying in, along with farm equipment and whatnot, said, "Yeah, go ahead. Just don't get hurt. Take anything you want," because he was going to try to get a scrapper in there to pull it out. But I've assembled this car uh, to the point where it looks like a car again. So it's fun. It's those are my favorite right now. But I've had Model A Fords, and I've got a 1919 Citroen, which is the first year that Citroen made an automobile, right after World War One. The only other one of these that I know of is in Jay Leno's collection. So it's pretty unique. But those are
That's
that's my other hobby.
that's rarefied air.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Outstanding. How can folks that are interested in your services and talking with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can email me simply by sending a message to Roger at preferredfundinggroup.com, or they could call me at 630-936-0142. That's my cell.
Roger, thank you so much for being on with us on the franchise successful franchisees beautiful view. Please drop Roger a line, leave a comment or a question in the comments below. Stay safe and win every day.